The track existed only at night. By day, it was nothing. Flattened grass, compacted dust, a faint line where hooves and feet had passed often enough to press the ground without cutting it. Sunlight erased it, wind softened edges. Nothing about it invited attention. After dark, it returned. The night track gathered movement the way shallow channels gathered water. Animals used it without knowing they did. People followed it because it felt easier underfoot. Sound behaved differently along it, carrying farther in some places, dying abruptly in others. The hyena reached the track after full dark. It moved with a loose, rolling gait, not in a hurry, not careless. Its body was built for endurance, not speed. Its head stayed low, ears rotating constantly, sampling sound rather than following it. The first thing it noticed was silence. Not absence, but misplacement. Insects called loudly to the east. To the west, nothing responded. Wind brushed grass unevenly, bending it toward the track but not across it. The air above the path felt hollow, as if sound slipped into it and failed to return cleanly. The hyena stepped onto the track and stopped. Its paws made almost no noise. That was wrong. Compacted ground usually carried sound sharply. Here, vibrations seemed to sink rather than travel. Each step felt heavier than it should have, as if the ground absorbed more than it gave back. The hyena waited. Waiting allowed sound to reorganize itself. If noise was delayed, it would arrive eventually. It did not. Instead, distant calls warped. A bird call from far off seemed closer than it was. A rodent's movement to the side sounded like it came from ahead. Direction collapsed. The hyena crossed the track fully and turned, testing the difference. Off the track, sound behaved normally again. Grass rustled honestly. Small stones clicked underfoot. Air carried information cleanly. On the track, it did not. The hyena stepped back onto it. Immediately, its own breathing sounded distant, as if someone else exhaled nearby. The hyena froze, muscles tightening, head lifting slightly. Nothing was there. The sound had folded back on itself. This track bent noise. The hyena moved forward slowly now, placing paws carefully, minimizing disturbance. The track ran between two low rises that flattened air movement. Heat released from the ground rose straight up and did not drift. Smell layered, trapped close to the surface. The hyena followed the line. It did not know why yet. Ahead, something moved. The hyena heard it, but could not place it. The sound arrived too loud for its distance, then vanished completely. When it returned, it came from the wrong side. The hyena stopped again. This was dangerous. Sound that lied could lead directly into confrontation, or away from opportunity entirely. Giantus relied on sound to judge safety as much as prey. This track disrupted that balance. A man approached the track from the south. He walked slowly, carrying something that clinked softly against his leg. His steps should have been obvious long before he arrived. They were not. The hyena sensed presence only when vibration reached the ground beneath it. By the time sound caught up, the man was already close enough that surprise worked both ways. They saw each other almost at the same time. The distance was not close, but the timing was wrong. The man stopped abruptly, heart rate spiking. His breath sounded louder to him than it should have. He could not tell where the hyena was moving because sound reflected strangely off the track. The hyena lifted its head, ears forward. It did not retreat. It did not advance. It stood, reading confusion. The man stepped back once. The sound of his footfall arrived late, echoing weakly along the track before disappearing. He turned and walked quickly away. The hyena watched him go. It did not follow. It did not need to. The track had already done enough. Once the man left the path, sound returned to him properly. He moved faster then, relieved not by distance, but by clarity. The hyena crossed the track completely and stood off to the side, testing sound again. Here, everything made sense. The night track lay quiet behind it, empty, unremarkable, but the hyena knew better now. This was not a path, it was a distortion. a place where noise arrived late, direction failed, and timing punished confidence. The hyena moved on, avoiding the track entirely, choosing longer routes where sound answered honestly. Behind it, the night track remained, invisible, quiet, waiting for anything that trusted hearing more than it should have, and stepped into a place where sound no longer told the truth. The hyena did not leave the area immediately. It moved off the track far enough for sound to recover, then stopped and listened again. Here, away from the compacted strip, the night answered honestly. Insects formed clear layers. Small animals betrayed themselves with clean directional noise. Wind moved grass in predictable waves. The contrast sharpened understanding. The track was not noisy, it was misleading. The hyena circled slowly, crossing the path again from a different angle. Each time its paws touched the compacted ground, sound bent inward. Its own breathing seemed displaced, arriving from behind or above. When it lifted a paw, the absence of sound felt louder than movement itself. The track held sound, then released it late. This was not coincidence. The land dipped slightly along the path, forming a shallow trough between low rises. At night, cooler air settled there, trapping sound close to the surface. Heat rising from surrounding ground created weak upward currents that pulled noise unevenly. The hyena waited again. Waiting allowed the track to reveal its rhythm. Some sounds arrived early, amplified, stretched, flattened. Others vanished entirely. Direction collapsed first, then distance. Timing failed last. This place punished certainty. Later that night, another animal approached. A jackal this time, moving quickly, confident, using the track as it had many nights before. The jackal slowed only slightly, ears flicking, but it did not stop. The hyena watched from the side. The jackal heard something and veered left, then corrected sharply right as sound contradicted itself. It stopped, confused, body tensing. Its breathing became audible, too loud, too fast. The hyena did not move. The jackal bolted suddenly, leaving the track in a direction that made no sense given what it had heard. The hyena understood then. Sound on the track did not just mislead prey, it misled competitors. This made the track dangerous in a different way. Confrontations could occur without warning. Retreat could carry animals into each other by mistake. The track compressed decisions into moments without information. The hyena crossed again and stood briefly on the path, letting sound distort deliberately. It learned how long it took for its own movement to be heard properly once it stepped off. It learned where echoes collapsed and where they exaggerated. Then it left. Not in panic, in recognition. This was not a place to linger, it was a place to avoid unless necessary. Opportunistic feeding here would always carry cost. Advantage could flip instantly into confusion. Toward dawn, people passed near the track again. Two figures moving together, speaking quietly. Their voices arrived stretched and directionless while they were still distant. When they stepped onto the path, their conversation seemed to come from behind them rather than ahead. They slowed. One stopped speaking. They stepped off the track together without discussion, choosing rougher ground where sound behaved properly again. The hyena watched from cover. The track was teaching without killing. By morning, the night track would disappear again into the land, visible only to those who knew where to look. But its effect would remain. Animals would hesitate, people would angle away unconsciously. The hyena moved off into terrain where sound could be trusted. Behind it, the track stayed quiet. Morning did not correct the track, it only exposed it. As the sun rose, the land regained shape and colour. Grass straightened, shadows shortened. Distance became readable again. By daylight, the path looked ordinary. Slightly flattened grass, compacted dust, a faint convenience line crossing open ground. Nothing about it warned of distortion. The hyena approached cautiously, this time in full light. Sound behaved normally now, birds called clearly, insects lifted and settled with honest direction. Wind brushed the grass in even waves. The track looked harmless. The hyena stepped onto it anyway. Immediately, something felt wrong. Not sound this time. Pressure. The compacted ground transmitted vibration unevenly. The hyena felt its own weight travel forward farther than expected, as if the earth carried motion ahead of the body. The sensation was subtle, but unmistakable. This was the daylight version of the lie. At night, sound misled. By day, timing did. The hyena walked a few steps along the track and stopped. From here, it could see clearly how the path sat lower than surrounding ground, shallow but continuous. Dust collected here, air pooled here at night, movement funneled here whether it intended to or not. The track did not disappear with the sun. It waited. People passed later in the morning, 3 figures moving livestock slowly. Their footsteps sounded clean now, but their spacing shifted unconsciously as they crossed the path. One hesitated for no clear reason. Another glanced back, unsure why. They did not speak. They simply adjusted. The hyena watched from a distance, noting how behavior bent without awareness. The track no longer needed darkness to work. Its shape alone influenced movement. By midday, heat rose and flattened scent. The track held smell longer than surrounding ground, collecting it like dust. Old information lingered too long. New information stacked on top of it. Nothing sorted itself out properly here. The hyena approached one last time and crossed quickly, minimizing contact. It did not pause. It did not test further. This place was no longer useful. It was not a hunting opportunity. It was a risk multiplier. That was the final understanding. Places where information failed at night but seemed normal by day were the most dangerous. They invited trust when trust should have been withheld. The hyena left the area entirely, choosing routes that cost more energy but returned clarity. Behind it, the night track faded again under sunlight, blending into the land. By evening, it would return. Not visibly, but functionally. Sound would bend again. Direction would collapse. Timing would mislead. Footsteps would arrive late. And anyone, human or animal, who trusted the path because it looked ordinary would learn the same lesson the hyena had learned without harm. Some places do not lie loudly. They lie quietly only at the moment when hearing matters most.